Social and Affordable Rental Housing, presented by DSO Housing Navigators. In this module, we will explore social and affordable rental programs available in Ontario. Today's social and affordable housing looks very different from the first units built in the 1960s, but it still serves the same purpose of providing homes to individuals with low to moderate incomes. Social housing, sometimes referred to as community and subsidized affordable housing, is a vital resource. When you consider your options for living independently, housing affordability is a major factor. At the same time, the type of community, your safety within it, and how included you feel are equally important factors to consider. Some of you may feel that social and affordable housing is not an option, but we ask that as you view this module, you consider whether in 5 or perhaps 10 years that feeling could change and encourage you to carefully consider these options. All information included in this module and supporting documents is provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as legal, technical, business, or other advice. Developmental Services Ontario and its host agencies do not endorse any commercial product, process, or service referenced in this module, or its producer or provider. The DSO also does not make any express or implied warranties or assume any legal liability for the accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or usefulness of any information contained in this module or supporting documents, including web links to other servers. Some URLs included in this document will link to a third-party website. In this module, we will present information about social and affordable rental housing. We hope this information will help you to understand the different kinds of social and affordable housing options, and that you will see the value of considering and applying for these types of housing, where they are available and suit your needs. Throughout the module, we will explore the definitions of social and affordable housing, the different types of social housing, how to apply for rent geared to income housing, and the nature of the waitlist, as well as rent geared to income, special priority applications, and accessibility accommodations that might be available in your area. Let's get started. This slide provides a link to information from DSO Housing Toolkit, which is related to the content we will cover in this module. The link on this slide leads to Step 2 of the DSO Housing Toolkit, where you will find information about renting a place to live, including information about social housing. All web links shown throughout this module can be accessed in the accompanying resources document. The history of social housing is a long one. It was originally developed for the purpose of responding to housing shortages caused by the Great Depression. When we say social housing, we are talking about government-assisted, subsidized housing for people with low to moderate incomes, seniors, or people with special needs who can live with or without supports in their community. This type of housing relies upon ongoing municipal funding to achieve affordability. In the early 2000s, responsibility for social housing was transferred from the province of Ontario to 47 service system managers. In most of the province, these entities are referred to as service managers. In the north, they are called District Social Services and Administration Boards, or DSABs for short. These are the entities responsible for funding and administration of community housing and other social services. As we move on, we'll share more about social housing. Rent geared to income is a form of social housing. In a rent geared to income housing unit, a household's monthly rent is set at 30% of the adjusted household net income. For people receiving financial benefits through the Ontario Disability Support Program or Ontario Works, rent is set based on what is referred to as a rent scale. This type of housing can be offered through community housing units that are owned directly or indirectly by service managers, through nonprofit or cooperative housing, Indigenous housing, as well as through rent supplement programs that are often offered in a private market. In rent geared to income housing, the subsidy is attached to the unit. So if a person moves or is evicted, they would lose the subsidy and must reapply. Access to rent geared to income housing is managed locally in communities across the province through a centralized waiting list or social housing registry. To access rent geared to income housing, you must complete an application form. It's important that you complete the application fully and provide all the requested information and any required documentation. The application may ask if a person is able to live independently. When a person needs support to live independently with success, they can check this box stating that they can live independently as long as they are prepared to put the support they need in place themselves and don't plan to look to the housing provider for any direct support. If you need assistance with completing the application, you can contact the Social Housing Registry for the area you are applying for. In some areas, there may also be housing organizations or help centers where you can receive assistance. You can call 211 or check the 211 website to find supports in your area, or contact your local DSO Housing Navigator to see if they have information. Once your application has been accepted, it is important to keep your file active by contacting the Social Housing Registry every year and any time your contact information changes. If you don't keep your file active, or if they cannot contact you, your application could be canceled. You can register for rent geared to income housing in as many areas as you like, provided you would be willing to accept housing in that area. The wait time for rent geared to income housing varies from region to region. In some areas, it is more than 10 years, and in others, it can be shorter. People who have been on a waiting list longer will be offered housing first. This is called first come, first served. At this time, applications for rent geared to income housing are processed and managed using this first come, first served approach, unless an applicant meets one of the priorities that have been set out for their region. When you apply for rent geared to income housing, you are placed on a waiting list. However, depending on where you are applying, there could be priorities that might help to move your position higher on that list. All social housing providers are required to give priority to eligible survivors of abuse or trafficking. However, many service managers have local priorities as well. These local priorities could include, but are not limited to, homelessness, Indigenous people, seniors, and persons with a disability. In order to qualify for many of these priorities, you will have to provide documentation that confirms your eligibility, and in most cases, you will need to complete additional forms. There are approximately 40 Indigenous housing providers in Ontario's social housing system that provide culturally appropriate homes for Indigenous people. If you qualify to live in Indigenous not-for-profit housing, you will pay 25% of your gross income towards rent or the shelter allowance you receive from Ontario Works or ODSP. In some cases, heat, hydro, and appliances are included. Some Indigenous housing providers also provide support services to their tenants to ensure that their tenancies are successful, stable, and long-term. Even if you don't have a status card, you may be eligible for some housing programs that may only require a person to self-identify and does not require proof of ancestry or belonging to a band. Rent Supplement Program provides rent geared to income housing in buildings owned by private landlords. This is provided through agreements between landlords and the service managers. When receiving rent supplement supports, the tenant's share of rent is paid directly to the landlord, and the service manager pays the remaining amount to the landlord. The rent supplement is attached to the unit, so if the tenant moves or is evicted, they lose the subsidy. When you make an application for rent geared to income, you will have the option to consider buildings which are run by the service manager, not-for-profit organizations, co-ops, and private landlords. A housing cooperative, also known as a co-op, is another type of non-profit housing. Co-ops are different because they do not have what is known as tenants or landlords. However, you are still responsible for a lot of the same things a tenant would be, such as paying rent and keeping a safe environment. When you live in co-op housing, you become a member of the co-op, and as a member, you share in voting rights and other responsibilities with all residents. The Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit, or the COB, is a portable benefit that provides a subsidy to assist with rental costs. The amount of the subsidy depends on a variety of factors. It's tied to the household and can be used to pay rent anywhere in Ontario. COB applicants must be on or eligible to be on a social housing registry. Priority is given to survivors of domestic violence and human trafficking, persons experiencing homelessness, and Indigenous people. Some service managers have additional priorities, such as seniors and people with disabilities. How you apply for the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit and who will be prioritized for it will vary from region to region. If you are offered the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit, in most cases, you will have to agree to cancel your application for rent-geared to income housing. You will be able to reapply, but you will lose your original place on the chronological waitlist. It is important to keep in mind that funding for the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit is only confirmed until 2028 or 2029, depending on the region, and there have been some disruptions to the availability of the COB. Many housing providers offer accessibility and special needs accommodations. The policies may vary from region to region. For example, modified units might be reserved for applicants who are physically disabled and require the use of a wheelchair. Physical modifications may vary by unit and can include features such as grab bars, lower countertops, wider door frames, and larger bathroom size to accommodate a turning radius of a wheelchair. If you require overnight care from a caregiver or require additional space for medical equipment, there may be the option of applying for an additional bedroom to accommodate these needs. The Social Housing Registry for the area you are interested in will have information regarding the units that are available in that region and what steps you need to take to access these accommodations. For example, there may need to be forms that need to be completed by a physician or other professional. So far, we have focused on social or rent-geared to income housing. Now let's take a look at affordable rental housing. We'll start by saying affordable rental housing is not the same as social housing. When we talk about affordable rental housing, we're referring to housing that has been created with funding to ensure that rents are affordable to households that are in the low to moderate income range. While service managers may play a role in some affordable housing initiatives, it's important to note that these typically do not include ongoing financial assistance. Social housing is generally more deeply affordable than affordable rental housing. The monthly cost of rent in affordable rental housing is usually set between 80 to 100% of average market rent. Average market rent is determined by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation through annual surveys conducted across the country. So, as an example, if the average market rent for a one-bedroom is $1,500 per month, the rent in an affordable unit would be set at somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500 per month. It's worth noting that you can stay on the rent-geared to income waiting list if you accept an offer for affordable rental housing. This slide provides a brief overview of the housing we have touched on in this module. So the housing benefit is a non-repayable subsidy to help eligible households pay the rent. Social housing is government-assisted housing that provides low-cost rental units to households with low to moderate incomes. Affordable rental housing is housing that is priced at or below the region's average market rent by unit size. Co-op housing is a type of housing where you are seen as a member who shares in voting rights and other responsibilities with all tenants. Rent-geared to income is a type of social housing where the amount of rent you pay is based on your net income. This slide provides links to information and resources which are related to the content we covered in this module. Link 1 leads to Step 2 of the DSO Housing Toolkit, where you will find information about renting a place to live and includes information about social and affordable housing. Link 2 leads to a page from the Ontario government which provides an overview of social and affordable housing. The third link leads to a page from the Ontario government which provides general information about the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. The fourth link leads to the Cooperative Housing Federation of Canada's website, which is information about cooperative housing in Ontario and Canada. The fifth link leads to a page on the Ontario Nonprofit Housing Association's website, which can help you to locate where you can apply for rent-geared to income housing in the community or communities you are interested in living in. Just as a reminder, all web links shown throughout this module can be accessed in the resource document for this module. This slide has DSO-related links and resources. Link 1 can help you locate your local DSO. Link 2 leads to information about DSO housing navigation. Link 3 leads to a list of housing navigators for all regions of Ontario and includes contact information. And Link 4 will take you to the DSO events calendar. This concludes a module on social and affordable rental housing. If you have any questions or would like regionally specific information or resources, please reach out to your local DSO Housing Navigator. You can also view our website and social media accounts.